Every day, you have only two choices. You're either leading yourself or losing yourself. There's no middle ground. You're either moving forward with discipline, clarity, and purpose, or you're drifting distracted and being pulled by everything around you. And the truth is, nobody drifts their way to success. If you're not the one holding the wheel of your own life, then life and everyone else will drive you where they want you to go. A speech leadership doesn't start in the boardroom. It starts in the bedroom when the alarm rings and you decide whether to rise or roll over. The very first decision of your day determines if you're leading yourself or losing yourself. Because if you can't lead yourself, how can you expect to lead your family, your career, your finances, your health, or your future? Think about it. Every habit is either leading you closer to the life you want or pulling you away from it. Discipline is leadership. Clarity is leadership. Vision is leadership. And these are not reserved for presidents or CEOs. They're reserved for anyone who dares to take charge of their own life. But here's the danger. Losing yourself doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly, quietly, one compromise at a time. You skip the workout. You put off the book. You silence the dream. And day by day, you lose a piece of yourself until one day you wake up wondering where your passion went, where your energy went, where your purpose went. Leading yourself, on the other hand, is not about perfection. It's about direction. It's about saying, I know where I want to go and I will not drift. Leading yourself means setting standards higher than your excuses. It means keeping promises to yourself the same way you keep them to others. It means refusing to trade long-term growth for short-term comfort. You see, self-leadership is the foundation of all achievement. The leader inside you must be stronger than the follower inside you. Because one part of you wants to grow, while another part of you wants to stay comfortable. One part of you wants to push forward, while another part of you whispers, take it easy. The question is, which part will you listen to? Life has a way of testing us daily. And every test asks the same question. Are you leading yourself or losing yourself? When distractions call, when laziness knocks, when fear whispers, when doubts shout, your response determines whether you're still in charge or you've surrendered the wheel. And remember this, leadership is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice. The way you eat, the way you think, the way you speak, the way you work, it all adds up. You don't lead yourself once. You lead yourself every day, every choice, every moment. So take a hard look at your life. Where are you leading yourself? Where are you losing yourself? Because the direction of your future will not be decided by fate, but by the leadership you show over yourself today. Self-leadership begins with daily discipline. Your small choices shape your destiny. Every day you are faced with dozens of opportunities to either strengthen your character or weaken it, to either take control of your direction or hand it over to the pull of comfort. And the truth is, the biggest battles of life are not fought in the marketplace. They are fought in the quiet moments of decision. When the alarm rings in the morning, when the plate of food is in front of you, when the phone is buzzing with distractions, when the choice to study or scroll comes up, those are the battlegrounds. They may seem small, but they carry the weight of your future. Discipline doesn't shout, it whispers in the small moments, and if you learn to listen to that whisper, your life changes. Discipline is nothing more than self-respect in action. It is telling yourself that your goals are worth more than your excuses, that your vision matters more than your impulses, and that your future deserves more than your comfort today. Some people think discipline is punishment, but it's not. It is the highest form of freedom. Because when you lead yourself with discipline, you free yourself from regret. You free yourself from guilt. You free yourself from that nagging voice inside that says, you could have done better. Discipline is the path to freedom, not the chains that hold you down. The danger is that small choices don't seem to matter in the moment. Skipping the workout doesn't feel like a big deal. Spending an hour scrolling doesn't seem like it changes much. Putting off that task until tomorrow doesn't feel like a failure. But each choice is like a seed, and seeds grow. One seed doesn't make a forest, but day after day, choice after choice, your habits become your destiny. That is why small disciplines are so powerful. They compound. Just as small neglects compound, neglect yourself for a day and nothing much changes. Neglect yourself for a month and you notice the slide. Neglect yourself for years and you no longer recognize the person in the mirror. Discipline is what keeps you from drifting into that loss of self. Think about it, every successful person you admire didn't get there through one grand moment of discipline. They got there through hundreds, thousands, millions of small choices. They led themselves when no one was watching, and that is why the world eventually watched them. You see, it's easy to perform when the lights are on and the crowd is watching, but true leadership is proven in the dark when only you will know whether you did the work or not. The way you handle the unseen moments determines the quality of the seen ones. When you practice daily discipline, you are building a trust with yourself. Every time you say, I will, and then you follow through, you are strengthening the most important relationship you have, the relationship with yourself. Because how can you trust yourself to achieve something big if you can't trust yourself to follow through on something small? Each completed discipline is like a brick laid in the foundation of confidence. And when you have enough bricks, you can stand on them and see farther than you ever imagined. But if you break your promises to yourself, the foundation crumbles, and no matter how talented or intelligent you may be, you will not have the stability to sustain success. Daily discipline doesn't need to be complicated. It's not about a massive overhaul of your life. It's about choosing the next right action and committing to it. Get up when you said you would. Read the pages you promised yourself. Make the call you've been avoiding. Do the workout even when you don't feel like it. These are small acts, but they are the muscles of leadership. The more you use them, the stronger they grow. And the stronger your discipline grows, the more capable you are of leading yourself toward the life you desire. What you must realize is that your future doesn't arrive fully formed. It is built one choice at a time. And the future you end up with will be the sum of the disciplines you practice or the neglects you permit. Daily discipline is not about today. It is about tomorrow. Every small choice is a vote for the person you want to become. And every small neglect is a vote for the person you fear becoming. Life does not respond to wishes, it responds to discipline. The beauty of discipline is that it gives you leverage. One discipline creates ripple effects into other areas of life. Wake up early and suddenly you have time to think, to plan, to work. Eat clean and suddenly your energy rises, your mind sharpens, your confidence grows. Save a little money and suddenly opportunities appear, freedom expands, options increase. That is the magic of discipline. It multiplies its reward far beyond the effort it requires. One discipline lifts another, and soon your entire life is elevated. And here's the paradox. While discipline may feel difficult in the moment, neglect is always more painful in the end. You will either suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The pain of discipline weighs ounces, the pain of regret weighs tons. One lasts for a moment, the other can last for a lifetime. Which pain are you willing to choose? Because you cannot escape pain, but you can choose the kind that shapes you instead of the kind that breaks you. Self-leadership begins with discipline because discipline is the act of telling yourself the truth. The truth about what matters, the truth about what is possible, the truth about what it will take. Without discipline, you drift into denial, into excuses, into justifications. With discipline, you see clearly, you act consistently, and you build steadily. That is how small choices, multiplied over time, create a destiny that others will call greatness, but you will know was simply the result of leading yourself each day. If you don't take control of your direction, distractions will decide it for you. Life is always moving, and whether you realize it or not, something is always leading you. If it is not your vision, your discipline, and your values, then it will be the opinions of others, the temptations of comfort, and the constant noise of the world. Every day, there are countless forces pulling at your attention, and if you don't have a clear sense of direction, those forces will happily decide for you where you go. The danger is that distractions don't announce themselves as dangerous. They show up dressed as entertainment, as convenience, as a harmless pause. But those pauses stretch into hours, and those hours stretch into wasted days, and before long you wonder why you feel stuck, why your energy is low, and why your goals seem distant. Direction is not automatic. Nobody wakes up and accidentally finds themselves at the peak of achievement or in the center of a fulfilled life. Direction requires choice. It requires leadership. It requires you to decide where you are going and to refuse to let distractions steal the wheel. Because every distraction is more than just a moment of lost focus. It is a withdrawal from your future. Every time you give in to distraction, you are making an exchange, trading what you want most for what you want now. The truth is, distractions are not just about wasting time, they are about shaping identity. Every time you let them win, you're telling yourself that comfort is stronger than your purpose. And once that message is repeated often enough, you start to believe it. That is why direction must be guarded fiercely. If you don't set your own course, society will set one for you. Advertisements will tell you what to buy, social media will tell you what to chase, peers will tell you what to value, and the world will gladly hand you an agenda that has nothing to do with your own. Without direction, you become like a ship without a captain, tossed from one wave to another, always moving but never arriving. But when you decide to lead yourself, you reclaim the power of choice. You become intentional. You start asking yourself, where am I going? Why am I going there? What is worth my energy today? And what is not? Those questions cut through distractions like a blade. They remind you that your time is finite, your focus is precious, and your life is too valuable to spend chasing what does not matter. Direction clarifies priorities. Without it, everything seems urgent. With it, only the important remains. Think about how distractions multiply. A 5-minute glance at your phone turns into 30 minutes. A harmless conversation about someone else's life turns into an hour of gossip. A day spent avoiding one task becomes a week of delay. These are not random losses of time, they are choices not to lead yourself. And the cost is not just the lost minutes, it is the lost momentum. When you surrender to distractions, you break the flow of progress. You interrupt the rhythm of discipline. You create friction that makes it harder to start again tomorrow. And distractions are clever. They do not always look negative. Some of them look productive. You may spend hours organizing your desk, refining your plans, researching more information, all while avoiding the one action that truly matters. This is still distraction, dressed as progress. You must be honest with yourself about whether your activities are moving you toward your direction or simply keeping you busy. Because business is not the same as productivity, and motion is not the same as progress. Only direction turns effort into achievement. When you take control of your direction, you begin to see life differently. You stop asking, "What do I feel like doing?" And you start asking, "What needs to be done?" You stop being reactive and start being proactive. You stop letting the urgent dictate your life and let the important lead it. And the amazing thing is that once you fix your direction, distractions lose their power. They may still appear, but they no longer pull you away because you know where you are going and you refuse to drift. The great danger of distractions is that they don't just steal your time, they steal your life in pieces. They seem harmless in the moment, but when you add them up across weeks, months, and years, they are the difference between a life of meaning and a life of regret. That is why leading yourself means guarding your focus like treasure. You must be ruthless about protecting it. Not everything deserves your attention. Not everyone deserves your energy. Not every opportunity deserves your commitment. If it does not align with your direction, it is a distraction. No matter how attractive it looks, self-leadership means knowing the difference between what pulls at you and what propels you. It means remembering that every yes is also a no, and every no is also a yes. When you say yes to distraction, you say no to growth. When you say yes to discipline, you say no to regret. Each choice is shaping your direction, even when it seems small. Your future will not be determined by the amount of time you are given, but by how much of that time you protect from distractions and invest in the right direction. Life is generous with opportunity, but it is also relentless with distraction. And whichever you give the most attention to will decide the course of your life. Losing yourself happens in small compromises, not sudden collapse. Most people imagine failure as a dramatic event, a single moment when everything falls apart, but the truth is that failure rarely arrives all at once. It creeps in quietly, in the form of neglected disciplines, unchallenged excuses, and delayed decisions. One compromise doesn't seem like much. Skip a workout today, and nothing feels different. Spend a little more money than you should, and life still goes on. Delay one important task until tomorrow, and no major damage is done. But string those small compromises together, and suddenly you are miles away from the life you intended to live. This is why self-leadership requires vigilance. The greatest danger to your goals is not a catastrophic event, but the gradual erosion of your standards. You lower the bar a little, and it becomes easier to lower it again. You accept one excuse, and it opens the door for 10 more. What was once unthinkable becomes acceptable, and what was once unacceptable becomes normal. Losing yourself is not about a single choice. It is about the accumulation of choices that slowly strip away your discipline, your vision, and your confidence. Consider how habits are built. Every action is like a vote for the kind of person you are becoming. One vote doesn't decide the outcome, but many votes determine the identity. If you consistently compromise, you are casting votes for weakness, for procrastination, for regret. Over time, those votes form a picture of a life that is far from what you once wanted. You don't wake up one day and suddenly find yourself unfulfilled or unproductive. You arrive there through a series of small, almost invisible decisions that lead you away from your purpose. This is why awareness is so critical. You must pay attention to the small things because they are not small at all. How you do the little things is how you do the big things. If you cut corners in private, you will eventually cut corners in public. If you let excuses slide in the small areas, they will invade the important ones. The habits that build or break your character are formed not in moments of crisis, but in everyday living. Think about a person who loses their health. It rarely happens from one meal or one skipped workout. It happens from years of eating just a little too much and moving just a little too little. Think about a person who loses financial freedom. It doesn't happen from one purchase, but from a pattern of spending just a little more than they earn. Think about relationships. They don't collapse overnight. They erode from small moments of neglect, small words left unsaid, small acts of care left undone. Losing yourself always begins with the little things you think don't matter. The irony is that compromise often feels easier in the moment. It feels like relief. You avoid discomfort today, but the price comes tomorrow. Discipline asks you to pay now and enjoy later, while compromise lets you enjoy now, but demands a heavy payment later. And the later payment is always bigger, always harder, always more costly. That is why it is so important to recognize compromises for what they really are, not harmless decisions, but delayed burdens that grow heavier over time. Leadership of self means refusing to bargain with your standards. It means understanding that every compromise has a direction, and that direction is always downward. When you accept less from yourself, you slowly become less, and soon the gap between who you are and who you could have been grows so wide that you wonder if it can ever be closed. But it was never a sudden gap. It was built step by step, choice by choice, compromise by compromise. The great danger of small compromises is that they make you comfortable with mediocrity. You tell yourself, just this once, and then it becomes, maybe again, and soon it becomes, this is just who I am. That is how potential is buried, not with one giant failure, but with 1,000 quiet surrenders. It is not the mountain in front of you that defeats you, but the small pebbles in your shoe that you refuse to remove. To guard against losing yourself, you must hold your standards firm. You must value consistency over convenience. You must recognize that integrity is built when no one is watching, and strength is formed in the decisions that seem insignificant. Because nothing is insignificant. Every choice either builds your character or erodes it. Every choice is either a deposit or a withdrawal from the person you want to become. When you understand this, you begin to treat daily decisions differently. You stop asking, does this matter today? And you start asking, what will this mean tomorrow? That shift in perspective changes everything. Suddenly, the compromise is no longer small because you see where it leads. Suddenly, the choice to stay disciplined is no longer difficult because you understand what it protects. Small compromises build into collapse, but small disciplines build into greatness. And the outcome of your life will be decided by which you allow to accumulate. The leader inside you must always be stronger than the follower inside you. Within every person, there are two voices competing for control. One is the voice of growth, calling you to rise higher, to discipline yourself, to stay committed to the vision you set. The other is the voice of comfort, whispering to slow down, to take it easy, to avoid the effort and escape the responsibility. Both voices exist in every human being, and the direction of your life is determined by which one you choose to obey more often. Self-leadership is about strengthening the leader within you until it becomes louder, firmer, and more convincing than the follower that would rather drift. The follower inside you is not evil, it is simply lazy. It wants the path of least resistance, the short-term reward, the immediate gratification. It wants approval instead of authenticity, safety instead of growth, and routine instead of progress. Left unchecked, that follower will always default to what is easy, even when easy is the very thing that keeps you small. That is why the leader inside you must be cultivated. Leadership of self is not automatic. It requires effort, attention, and consistent practice. If you do not strengthen the leader, the follower will take charge, and the result is a life of compromise rather than fulfillment. The leader inside you is the part that remembers your goals when you feel like quitting. It is the part that tells you to get up when the alarm rings, even though your body begs for more sleep. It is the part that insists you stick to your plan, even when distractions tempt you to wander. It is the part that reminds you that the pain of discipline weighs far less than the pain of regret. This inner leader must be fed daily, or it will weaken. You feed it with discipline, with clarity, with intentional choices. You feed it by keeping promises to yourself. Every time you act in alignment with your vision, you are strengthening the leader. Every time you choose excuses, you are strengthening the follower. The battle between the leader and the follower is ongoing. It never ends. Success does not silence the follower. It simply gives the leader more practice. Even at high levels of achievement, the follower still whispers, still tempts, still looks for an opening. That is why leadership must be constant. You cannot lead yourself once and be finished. You must lead yourself every day, every decision, every hour. The moment you stop leading, the follower will gladly take the wheel. Think about the consequences of letting the follower win. It feels harmless at first, sleeping in, putting something off, indulging in what you promised to avoid. But each small surrender weakens the leader's authority. Soon the follower's voice becomes more familiar, more comfortable, more natural, while the leader's voice fades. Before long, you are not even aware that you are being led because the follower has convinced you that drifting is normal. That is how people lose themselves, not through one big collapse, but through slowly silencing the leader within. On the other hand, when you strengthen the leader, everything changes. You walk differently, you think differently, you carry yourself with a sense of clarity and direction. You are not swayed as easily by opinions, not pulled as quickly by distractions, not shaken as deeply by setbacks. The leader inside you gives you resilience. It gives you focus. It gives you the ability to say no to what doesn't matter because you already said yes to what does. When the leader grows stronger, your standards rise and your life rises with them. Strengthening the leader requires honesty. You cannot lie to yourself and expect the leader to stay strong. If you tell yourself it doesn't matter when it does, or you promise yourself tomorrow when you know you mean never, you are feeding the follower. Honesty builds leadership. Facing your weaknesses builds leadership. Admitting your excuses builds leadership, because the leader inside you thrives on truth, while the follower thrives on comfort. The more honest you are about your current state, the stronger your leader becomes in guiding you to where you need to go. It also requires discipline. The leader is built through repetition. One act of discipline is good, but consistent acts of discipline are what shape the leader into a commanding presence in your life. Each time you resist the easy path, the leader grows. Each time you act on your commitments instead of your feelings, the leader grows. And with each act, the follower weakens. Over time, the voice of the leader becomes so clear that the follower's whispers lose their power, and it requires vision. The leader inside you cannot guide you without a destination. Without vision, there is no leadership, only movement without meaning. The follower thrives in the absence of vision because when you don't know where you are going, anything can distract you. But when your leader knows the destination, it can steer you through storms, temptations, and obstacles because it knows where you are headed. The clearer your vision, the stronger your leader's authority. The balance of power between these two voices is never fixed. You decide it daily. You decide it in the small hours of the morning, in the temptations of the afternoon, in the reflections of the evening. The leader wins when you choose growth over comfort, purpose over distraction, truth over excuse. The follower wins when you choose the opposite. And the quality of your life, the strength of your character, and the fulfillment of your potential are all determined by which voice you choose to obey more often. True leadership is a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Many people think of leadership as a single event, a bold moment, or a dramatic choice that forever defines the course of their life. But real leadership, the kind that transforms a person from ordinary to extraordinary, is not built in a day, it is built every day. It is not about the rare, grand moments, but about the consistent, quiet decisions that shape the hours, the days, the months, and ultimately the years of a life. You do not become a strong leader of yourself because you once made a powerful decision. You become a strong leader of yourself because you continue to make the right decisions even when they feel small, even when they feel inconvenient, even when no one notices. Daily practice means repetition. It means showing up again and again to the disciplines that matter most, even when the excitement has faded. Enthusiasm will get you started, but only practice will carry you through. Anyone can be disciplined for a day, but true leadership demands discipline for a lifetime. You practice in the mornings when it would be easier to sleep. You practice in the evenings when it would be easier to relax. You practice in the middle of your day when distractions are loud and temptations are strong. And each practice strengthens the muscle of leadership until it becomes second nature. The danger of seeing leadership as a one-time decision is that it tricks you into believing you can arrive and then rest. But leadership is not a destination, it is a process. The moment you stop practicing it, you begin to lose it. Just as strength fades when you stop training and skills fade when you stop using them, leadership fades when you stop exercising it. The follower inside you waits for such moments, and the instant you let your guard down, it steps in to take control. That is why leadership must be renewed every day through practice. Think about the habits of great athletes, musicians, or professionals. They do not succeed because they made one important decision to pursue excellence. They succeed because they decided every day to train, to rehearse, to refine, to sharpen. The great ones are not just talented, they are relentless in their practice. Self-leadership works the same way. You may have made a decision once to live with purpose, but the question is whether you are still practicing that decision today. Daily practice of leadership shows up in small ways that others might overlook. It is in how you speak to yourself when you're tired. It is in whether you follow through on commitments that seem unimportant. It is in how you use the hours that nobody else is monitoring. It is in the moments when excuses are easy and nobody would blame you for giving in, but you choose not to. Leadership is tested in the details, and details are shaped by daily practice. Another reason daily practice matters is because life changes. Challenges appear, opportunities arrive, and circumstances shift. If leadership were a one-time decision, you would be unprepared for the new demands of tomorrow. But daily practice keeps you sharp, flexible, and ready. It trains you to adapt, to endure, and to keep moving forward no matter what arises. Without daily practice, even the strongest leader can become weak when life changes course. With daily practice, even the most difficult storms can be navigated with clarity and strength. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Anyone can be intense for a short time, but consistency requires character. The person who works steadily day after day will always outlast the one who burns bright for a moment and then fades. True leadership is built not in bursts of inspiration, but in steady, consistent action that compounds over time. The quiet strength of practice creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. Daily practice also builds trust. Each time you practice leadership, you are proving to yourself that you can be counted on. You begin to rely on your own word. You know that if you set a standard, you will live by it. That trust is priceless because it becomes the foundation of your confidence. You cannot fake confidence. It comes from the knowledge that you are dependable, that you do what you said you would do, that your actions match your intentions. And this trust is built brick by brick, choice by choice, through daily practice. Self-leadership as a practice means refusing to coast. It means refusing to believe that yesterday's efforts are enough for today. It means waking up every day with the awareness that leadership is not something you did, but something you are doing. And if you stop doing it, you stop being it. The leader inside you must be exercised daily, or it grows weak and silent. The beautiful thing about practice is that it doesn't need to be perfect. What matters is that you continue. You may stumble, you may miss a step, but the very act of returning to practice strengthens you. Each day is a new opportunity to recommit, to sharpen, to grow. Leadership does not demand perfection, only persistence. The daily practice of showing up, choosing discipline, rejecting compromise, and staying focused creates a compounding effect that over time produces extraordinary results. Every great achievement, every remarkable life, every person remembered for strength and influence was built on this principle of daily practice. They may have had talent, they may have had vision, but what truly set them apart was their consistency in leading themselves when no one else was watching. They understood that leadership is lived in the ordinary days, the common hours, the simple routines. And because they practiced it faithfully, they became the kind of people who could be trusted with responsibility, influence, and success.